The paintwork on this figure looks expensive. Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven, today with a scale figure review, and for today we are checking out another relatively new Chinese figure brand that is making excellent low budget scale figures. Those that cost less than 10,000 yen each. This is one of those figures, and this would be my first time reviewing a figure by this brand called Siki Anim. And speaking of this figure right here, this is like their third figure release this year by this brand Siki Anim, the third release, and their fourth release would be around October next month. While the total number of figures they have either released or announced, only 12 figures in total. So this is a very new company. And I will need some help from myfigurecollection.net right here because there is nothing written on her box in terms of her English or Japanese name in Romaji, right? So this is a 1/7 scale Shibarare Cat Ruhuna-chan made by Siki Anim, and the artist behind this character is Felnemo. The official price in China was 299 Chinese yuan, released back in May earlier this year, so that was roughly 4 months ago. That is the Chinese release. For those of you who have pre-ordered her in Japanese websites, the release date was July 2025, so roughly 2 months ago, and the international price for the standard version is 8,000 yen, and deluxe version 9,000 yen. I believe the deluxe version comes with a small wall scroll, which I did not bother, so I got the standard version over here. No extra face plates or other parts. As for the height of this figure at 1/7 scale, based on my own measurements, 26.5 centimeters, including all the way to the top of her ear over here, and that is also including the base. Without the ear, let's say head height up to this point, 25.5 cm, which is still relatively tall for a 1/7 scale figure. And we shall begin with the bad news about this figure, which is a small problem to be honest, which is the packaging, the box. So this is what the box looks like, and as you can see, mine was badly dented, but this wasn't the fault of the manufacturer. It is just that I chose a really bad shipping method, and then I ended up with dented boxes, so this is my own fault. But at the same time, if you were to ask me what is the quality of the box like, this is your ordinary paper box, so you shouldn't expect too much. The design is also, I'm not sure, it looks very traditional Chinese for some reason. Yeah, and as you can see, the name of the character, the figure, and everything else, they're all in Japanese, and you have Chinese instructions on the box. So I saw the character, I liked the character design, I just bought it without knowing anything about the character, not even the name, right? So this box is meh. This is like a 4 or 5 out of 10 box, not really nice. But this is a low budget figure, I think I shall give this a pass. As for unboxing and assembly, you are really just plugging a figure into the black disc base, and despite getting metal foot pegs, this figure is not very stable. That is also one of the bad news. Not that bad, but something noteworthy. So this figure was fairly wobbly, as you can see over here, and she was a big pain in the butt to film for today's figure review because, I mean, look at the camera screen and then the figure is like just vibrating around. It was annoying, right? If I were to bump against my table a little bit, then the figure would start vibrating again, so it was pretty annoying. So this is not a very stable figure, but at the same time, this is not a heavy figure. And weight distribution appears to be fairly balanced, so I don't think you have to worry about leaning over longer periods of time. So stability score is a 5 out of 10 as well, just very average. Moving on to the sculpting department and paintwork, this is where the bad news ends because this figure brand Siki Anim, I wasn't sure what to expect. And they surprised me in such a good way because this is pretty much identical to what was being shown to us in their official product pictures during the pre-order period. The sculpt department, from her hair to her body, her face, all the way down to her legs, the entire figure is pretty much flawless. Anything that is quality control related, I couldn't find any problems over here. No ugly gaps or seam lines. For example, 2 parts that are not fitting well together, they force it together. None of that sort. No excess glue leaking out from parts that were glued together. No mold lines, the kind you find on price figures. None of that over here. And every part are fitted very well over here. So as far as the sculpting goes, both for the quality control and also the detail levels, based on the price point of 300 Chinese yuan, 8 to 9,000 Japanese yen, this is a high score of 8 out of that. Because the sculpting department on her hair especially is outstanding. It is better than some even more expensive scale figures. Her face gets a 9 out of 10 in terms of accuracy compared to the official artwork or the official product pictures at least. And then there are also other things like the face expression, the paintwork around her mouth, because her mouth is open, that means a little bit more detail to be painted accurately. Everything is fine over there, so the face is as good as it gets. This is a part where I was a bit concerned initially because I saw user pictures on Taobao where the people who have purchased the figure way earlier than me, they posted pictures. I was like, I wasn't sure. But at the same time, most people use their smartphones to take pictures of their figures, not dedicated cameras. And smartphones, they have wide angle lenses, so there could be a certain amount of distortion affecting the faces of the figures, right? So the sample pictures posted by most people online, they are actually not accurate. Since I know a little bit about photography and lenses in general, I was betting on the figure turning out way better than what I saw online. And yes, I think my gamble paid off. I think her face is executed to perfection over here. So overall, the sculpting department of this figure gets pretty high marks. Yeah. Moving on to the paintwork of this figure, this is where Siki Anim surprised me even further. So the first thing to note is the figure looks expensive. If you paid attention to the paintwork on this figure, both visually with your own eyes and also by touch, you touch the figure, the surface is very smooth and nice to the touch. There is proper protective coating, can feel it when you touch the figure. And any sort of weathering or shading, right, color gradients in general, they are very gradual, very smooth, they are not sudden. Especially the hair over here. The hair of this figure is quite the sight to behold. There is some kind of pearlescent finish to it, very shiny finish, kinda metallic, kinda not metallic at the same time, pearlescent paint. And then there are so many multiple different shades of purple or violet being incorporated into the hair over here. Many different shades of color, which is quite rare to see in a low budget figure. And the best part is that despite the multi-layered paintwork on the hair being done over here, you couldn't find any flaws. They executed it to perfection. The weathering work on this figure is pretty heavy-handed, yet very nicely done for a figure costing less than 10,000 yen. The more intricate parts of this figure, which is near her arms that are being tied together with this gold color string and also the purple ribbons, they are painted with precision, no paint bleeding, no paint transfer, no scratches of any kind. If there is one minor problem that I would like to point out about the paintwork, I'm not sure if this can be called paint bleeding, because this is something that is so uniform. So this single layer of gold paint over here, not gold, more like copper color, right? Copper bronze color paint around her waist over here. Yeah, the one I'm pointing, this region over here. It is bleeding into the white color frills underneath it, ever so slightly, about 0.5 millimeters of bleeding. But can I call this bleeding when it is uniform across the entire figure? Regardless of whether it is on the right side or the left side or even behind the figure underneath her hair, the paint bleeding into the white color regions, they are very uniform and almost the same amount, right? So my guess over here is that this is not a painting error, but rather a masking tape error. So for figures like this, or pretty much any anime figure out there, before they paint the final details, they will apply masking tape. And how do they apply it so precisely, right? The answer is laser cut masking tape. So they have a large piece of masking tape and then they laser cut the shape based on a blueprint in their computers and then they apply it. The masking tape has a shape that follows the figure exactly. So if the masking tape was slightly off in terms of the dimensions during laser cutting process, or maybe they did not apply it properly, then this kind of uniform paint bleeding is what you get. It is not an ugly paint bleeding, it is almost invisible until you look for it. So I'm not sure whether to classify this as a quality control issue. It kind of is when you factor in the masking tape part. So overall, the paintwork on this figure, despite this minor problem over here around her waist, I can also give her an 8 out of 10. This is outstanding work from Siki Anim. So lastly, the base of this figure, there is really not much to discuss about, and this is also one of the negatives of this figure. Though I shouldn't be too harsh on this figure because this is a low budget figure. Yup, a plain black disc base over here. But the small good news is that this is a matte finish base. This is not glossy, which means a bit harder to accidentally scratch. A slightly nicer base would be nice to have, but at this price point, I can forgive it. So arriving at the conclusion of today's figure review, Siki Anim surprised me because I'm not sure what to expect. There are low budget Chinese brands out there like Mengxiang Toys, which disappointed me a bit. And then there are brands like Animaster and Bear Panda doing God's work. So I'm not sure where to expect. My expectations were somewhere in the middle. Not as good as Animaster or Bear Panda, but not as bad as Mengxiang Toys. But what I got actually exceeded my expectations. This is almost at Animaster level itself. It is good. Yes. So can I recommend this figure of Ruhuna-chan? It is a resounding yes. Even more so at this price point. As long as you love your cat girls and her design appeals to you, pick one up. So until then, if you found this review to be helpful or informative, please give this video a like and subscribe to this channel for more anime figure content every week. Until then, thanks for watching and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.